We're at this wonderful museum.
It's called the Interpretive Trails Museum, and it's fascinating. We loved it.
Yeah.
It's also 100 degrees out in Casper, Wyoming today, so it was a great place to explore. We loved it.
Yeah, and we'll show you all about it.
This amazing national museum traces European immigrants across the United States.
It started with the mountain men that came to trap the furs that had grown so popular in Europe and that tribes were willing to trade for. Always our focal point was the buffalo. Wherever it went to, wherever it wound up, that is where our people went.
They played a film with the people narrating entries from diaries of the immigrants. It was fascinating.
Prior to Independence Day, they would most likely miss the early snows of winter on the mountain passes to the west.
This was a simulator to help you experience a real wagon train. Totally fun.
If this river was any higher, we'd be spending another couple of nights on that side. Who knows how long?
The Mormons had the toughest time. They didn't have big wagons.
They would walk to Utah Territory, pushing and pulling two-wheeled handcarts filled with their possessions. Led by Edward Martin, a party of English converts left the Missouri River in late August 1856. The family of Robert and Margaret McBride was with those immigrants.
Look about you, Margaret McBride. It is a great sight to see about 800 people heading for Zion with handcarts.
Isn't this exciting, Peter? It's okay, Weaver, but I wish we didn't have to get up so early.
Come on, McBride family. Our destiny beckons.
Brigham Young used this style of wagon to cross, and once he realized how rugged the road was, he sent out people to build ferries and outposts to help settlers make it safely.
Independence Rock was a landmark used by trappers first, and then all who were represented in this museum. You had to reach Independence Rock by July 4th in order to not hit the storms in the winter. We haven't seen it yet, but plan to.
The California Trail was all about the gold rush.
7,000 immigrants passed through Caspar in 1847.
With everything happening on the West Coast, the East Coast needed news quicker, and thus was born the legendary Pony Express.
Riders had to be between 100 and 125 pounds. Most were 20 years old, but some were as young as 14. Do these guys look 20 years old to you? So the Pony Express was only 19 months, from April 14, 1860 to November 1961.
If you're a rider, you might be interested in this.
The Pony Express was rendered useless by the railroads and the telegraph.
This stagecoach was another simulator, but it was too late in the day to get on.
Caspar today is what Rob and I like to call a big little small town. It oozes Western culture and super friendly people.
Of course we found a waterfall.
Garden Creek Waterfall was lovely. Good morning. Today we're going to go through Fort Casper. We're excited about it. It looks much more developed than Fort Bridgers was. Sorry about that. But we're going to go see.
Yeah, and we'll take great pictures, show you all that there is to know about Casper, Wyoming.
We had just started to enjoy the museum when the electricity went out, so we went to the outside display. The original and reconstructed buildings of the fort each portrayed a different aspect of the soldier's life. It was so basic.
As retaliation for the Sand Creek Massacre, a brutal attack on a peaceful Cheyenne village where 135 Native Americans were killed, including 100 women and children. The Native Americans attacked the Platte Bridge. Caspar Collins Jr. led the counterattack and was killed. Fort Casper in Casper, Wyoming is named after him.
This was something we hadn't seen before. It predated the bow and arrow. The atlatl served as a lever to double the length of the thrower's arm, and it went 6 times farther than a regular thrown spear, with 200 times the force. Then the sheep ranchers came to town. Listen to this guy's story.
Yeah, so here in central Wyoming, especially in the early days, sheep was a very big part of the industry for agriculture here in the state. The big thing is the cattle wars, and so the sheep versus the cattlemen was what caused a lot of strife here, and that's where we get the Johnson County wars and all of that sort of stuff. However, a lot of the big land barons had massive amounts of sheep, as you can see in the picture here. Most of that was for wool, not necessarily meat, but wool production. My family in particular, we were huge sheep producers. We ranched just east of town up until the end of World War II. At the end of World War II, the demand suddenly crashes. And my family has 3 warehouses full of wool in Denver that we can't sell. And so we get out of the sheep business. Pretty good timing, because just after that, the use of wool further declines as people discover polyester and the joys of polyester. And so
This museum focused on the history of the city of Caspar and its time as the oil capital of the Rockies.
I did not know a core sample from the Earth would be so hard. Jeffree Star, an internet personality, opened his first store in Casper, Wyoming. Makeup was the passion that made him famous, but he also owns a yak farm near Casper, and that's where he gets his meat. A little strange, but then so is Jeffree.
And this is beef country. And so we're having a bison burger. And here's my first bite. Oh, I'm good.
This beautiful eagle soars over Caspar.
So we're driving down the 80 and we see Fort Bridger right off of the 80 freeway. So it's about a mile in, not too far. Fort Bridger had a few things we hadn't seen before, so we thought we'd show you.
This is one of the few places we've seen with descriptive plaques with Braille.
Captain Amos Mills had a discipline problem. Putting people in jail meant they didn't have to work. So he came up with this. Petty criminals were forced to sit on this horse holding a heavy sword for hours. It was the end of his discipline problems.
Thanks for watching, and if you like our videos, please press the subscribe button.